A word of warning, this podcast explores graphic and disturbing stories and includes some strong language. It therefore may not be suitable for our young listeners or other folks who may find it disturbing. Hello and welcome to True Crime News, the podcast covering high-profile and under-the-radar cases from across the country every week. I'm your host, Ana Garcia. Today we have a special extra episode of the podcast. This is my conversation with Scarlett Wactor, the mother of slain General Hospital actor Johnny Wactor. I sat down with the grieving mother this week. It's for our upcoming television series, True Crime News, which premieres Monday, September 9th. Last May, Johnny was gunned down by thieves attempting to steal his catalytic converter in downtown Los Angeles. With the case stalled, Scarlett came here to Los Angeles to put pressure on the police and to also plead with the public to come forward with any information that could identify Johnny's killers. Well, just 2 days later, the LAPD announced the arrest of 4 suspects in the case, one step closer to justice. Here's more of my interview with Johnny's mother, Scarlett. First of all, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
We're all very sorry for the loss of your son. And it must be very difficult for you to be in the same city where your son was murdered.
It is. And when I walk, I visited after the memorial, wanted to go see where he took his last breath. And, all the businesses being boarded, shut down. And I'm thinking, well, why would they? And then all the broken glass from all the cars, that had been broken into. And that had been weeks after he had been murdered. And it was still happening. And then I thought, well, maybe he looked at this tree. And then he had Anita, maybe, because he only lived about 3 minutes after he was shot. And so, yeah, I thought, an awful thing. But what did you see when you're lying down and in this street? And not a pretty place.
Did that give you either context or did it give you some kind of comfort?
I wouldn't say comfort. But for me, I needed it to know where he was. And Anita had told us, where they were walking from. So I got to see all that. And, he fell into her arms. I was very thankful because had her car been parked further, he'd have been on the street alone. And so me and his brothers are very thankful. We thought about that he died with someone, not by himself. And then, of course, the security guard, Brian, who came after he heard the shot and the scream and was working on him, he was there as well. So I was like, I guess, that's all what he saw, before he left us.
Tell me about Johnny. Tell me about him growing up. Tell me about what he was like as a little boy.
He was very sweet, didn't hardly cry, slept through the night from day one, which I've always said that was God's little trick to make you want to have more. And but he was a good baby, very smart, cute little fella. He enjoyed sports and was in, the GATE classes at school. So he was an overachiever, I guess, in maybe a lot of ways.
Did he always tell you that he wanted to be an actor and go to Hollywood?
In 4th grade, he was in a GATE program, which is gifted and talented education. And his teacher had him play Julius Caesar. And he came home, was very excited about this. And this monologue at 4th grade, he had to memorize. I was like, okay. And he did it. And he wasn't nervous. He thought it was fun. And then by 6th grade, they had opened Rawlings School of the Arts, which was brand new. So it was, dancing, writing, drawing, and theater. And he tried out and got in for drawing and theater, and then definitely stayed with the theater part. He loved it, absolutely loved it, loved being on stage. And he had said that's what he wanted to do. And I said, you're not going to major in theater in college. You'll starve to death. You major in something else. If you're good enough, you'll be discovered. And so he did. He appeased me and double majored, business, econ, and Spanish. And then as soon as he graduated, he and his best friend, Dusty Morrow, packed the car, headed out here, and never looked back.
And what was it like for him being in Hollywood, trying to be an actor?
Well, he had also waited tables at Charleston Place, which most of the college students did because that's how you make money. And so that's what he's planning on doing here. and you have to like be invited. He was just blown away. And so somebody got him a way to apply at some place in Santa Monica. And he got his first job waiting tables and was very happy so he wouldn't starve to death. Because we didn't have money to support him out here either. And then that way he could audition during the daytime. Well, you can't just get a manager. You have to be invited to do that. And so all that was a rude awakening to him. But I think it was a theater teacher that actually introduced him to a manager and told the manager, you need to audition Johnny or something. And that's how he got his foot in the door.
And what was his big break?
Well, probably General Hospital was his biggest break, but he had done some national commercials. He had done USS Indianapolis Men of Courage with Nicolas Cage, had a lot of fun doing that. He enjoyed that. And, just a lot of other little things in between. But he really enjoyed the whole cast of General Hospital and everybody he worked with. And he was kind of sad, I think, that, that they killed him off. Ironic, he was murdered on General Hospital. And he did Criminal Minds and I think NCIS, some guest appearances. But and he had a lot of other auditions that he had been filming and working on before he was murdered.
Do you think that his role on General Hospital is the one for which most people know him and remember him?
Oh, yes. That is a huge fan base. They love their characters. And people showed up at his service. They traveled to come to his service and had never met him. Just knew him as Brando on General Hospital. And so, they're a very loyal fan base. And that's a very long-standing show and has a lot of long-standing actors and actresses on there.
So tell me what happened the night he was killed.
He was bartending, and they had to do a deep clean that night. They don't always do that. So he got off a little later than normal. And 2 bar backs, and he and Anita Joy were walking to their cars. And the parking they were promised was never provided. And so they had to park on the streets. And so they didn't know where each other had parked. They just show up at work. And so they all walked in tandem together because of the area they had to park. They got to the corner, I think, of Pico, and the 2 bar backs said, well, we're this way. And Anita and Johnny pointed and said, oh, we're both down here. And they didn't know it. Both of them had parked right beside each other. The nose of her car was at the back of his. And they were walking down the sidewalk. If this is the street and the big sidewalk is here and this is Hope Street. And they were laughing and talking and just going to their car. And he saw some guys at their car. The street lamp is burned out, has been, that I found, burned out for weeks. And so it was very dark. And the people, I think, were in dark clothing as well. And the car was dark. And so he noticed them and he thought he was being towed. In Charleston, they boot your car and come back and tow you. And so they were down at his wheel and he thought that's what they were doing. And he told Anita, he goes, I got this. And he asked him, are you towing my car? And when the guy looked up and had a mask on, he immediately stepped back in front of Anita and put his hands down and out. And the guy shot him point blank in the heart.
He didn't get a chance to say anything?
Nope. Anita, she heard a pop and he fell back against her with all his force. And she's like, honey, are you okay? And he said, nope, shot. Those were his last words. And then she said he fought to, she was screaming. And then the security guard who had parked, I guess, I don't know, maybe a block away, heard the shot and the scream and came running, called 911. They put him on hold.
Hold on. 911 put him on hold.
Oh, yeah. Put him on hold.
How long?
I don't know. I think it was, I don't know. Maybe they came back within a few seconds. I have not heard the call.
That could be an eternity when you're dying.
Yeah. And the hospital, I think, is not far away. And so there was an ambulance and police car right around the corner because they were at the hospital. And the hospital wasn't far. And so within a couple minutes, the ambulance arrived, and Brian had been working on him, the security guard, trying to save him. Wrapped Anita's jacket around him, was, working on him. But Anita told me when the ambulance got there, his lips had gone pale, and he had struggled and tried to, stay with him by taking his, breaths. And the ambulance got there and continued working on him, but he died there in her arms. That's where he died. So I really feel, and they sped away. I feel that if there had been police going around, every few minutes, like they are in some of your other cities around here, they would have run smack dab into a policeman, or maybe that'd have been more of a deterrent. Better cameras, something. Just no deterrent.
There was no reason to shoot your son.
No.
Not that there should ever be a reason.
I mean, and I said this today at the press conference, some of the media have said confronted, and I don't like that word because it implies confrontation. He didn't do that. I mean, I guess I maybe could understand more if he grabbed him and the guy shot him, but it was nothing like that. He was not being confrontational. He, was thinking they were towing his car and was letting him know, it's kind of, I guess, like, I'm here, this is my car, which is in Charleston. If they put the boot on, you got to pay to get it off. But if they haven't put it on and you show up, then you don't have to pay.
Because it's been described as if your son tried to stop the thieves from taking his catalytic converter.
And he did not. He did not do that. He stepped back into the side in front of Anita and hands down and out. And so there was no threat.
How did you receive the news?
It was 3 a.m. here, so that would be 6 a.m. our time. So I was in the shower. My great niece was graduating. I was taking my mom to her graduation, which I did that day. And then when I came home, I needed to cut the grass, so I was on the riding lawnmower. And it was probably about 1 o'clock. And then a few minutes later, I hear a whistle, and Grant, my youngest, walks out, and I see him in the yard, and I turn the lawnmower off. And I said, yeah, what you need? And he was crying and trying not to cry and told me, he said, Johnny's been shot. He's gone. He didn't make it. I was like, no. I really thought, it's got to be a joke, bad publicity, press, anything. And then we had to go in. We were Googling the hospitals and all those things. And you have to send pictures of your ID because they didn't know next of kin or anything. Nita didn't know us. The other people that worked with him didn't know us.
Who spoke with you?
One of the detectives, after we called the hospital and they gave us the number to a detective and said, you're going to have to send a picture of your ID. We texted a picture of our IDs over to him. And he confirmed and kind of told me basically what happened, but not all the details that I just told you. And then he gave me some other numbers and the case number and medical examiner's office, all those numbers.
So that was May.
Yes.
And in August, the police finally release still photographs,
Yes.
photograph
Yes.
from surveillance video, believed to be of the killers.
Yes.
Have you seen the actual video?
No. I have not.
Did the police tell you that they were going to release this information ahead of time?
No. I went back to my Sunday school class. I can't go into church because I don't hear music well without really getting emotional. And so I just went back to Sunday school class for the first time. And so my phone was on silent. And I guess when I got out, that was probably around 11:30 or 12, turned my phone back on when I got in the house. And it was media that first alerted me and wanted to know what comments I had I seen this. And then Micah Parker had also texted me and said, you need to turn on your phone. And that's how I found out. I wish they'd have given me just 2 minutes heads up. Hey, we're releasing this. But, not that I guess it would do anything one way or the other, but they didn't feel a need to share that with me, I guess.
I think you have a right to know what's going on in the investigation. I think you have a right to be given a heads up and to be briefed on what's happening with your son's murder case.
I would like to say yes, but they're only going to tell you so much. From what they tell me when I do ask questions they're very polite. Don't get me wrong. And I do believe that they are working hard. And I support the police, but they're not going to tell me anything. If anything's leaked, then it blows whatever lead, I guess, that they have. And that's what they constantly reiterate, constantly tell me. They do say, we're going to get them. You know, we're working hard. We've got X amount of people working on it. And I have no choice but to believe them. I mean, I don't know how else to find anything else out.
So when you look at that photograph, what do you read into that? Anything?
It's a grainy photograph. I think they need better cameras down there, better surveillance. But the fact that on the flyer that they named the person that has a tattoo under the left eye and on the right cheek, they have something more. They've got something they're not releasing or showing. So that's definitely pinpointing somebody. And that's good news for me. I feel very encouraged by that. And I do believe someone knows something. And that's the whole reason for the press conferences, is to get them to come forward, say something. You can do it anonymously. And anything to help them be arrested and convicted.
You and your friends and your family have been very active.
Yes.
Between walks. I don't know if you want to call them a protest or just a gathering.
Yes.
And just staying in front of the media and reporters to keep Johnny's case visible for everyone. You came to Los Angeles for a reason. What was that reason?
I was asked by the LAPD to come and have the press conference and to ask for help and for people to come, anyone to come forward. And so I said I would do that. Now, I can't come out all the time because, of course, I have a job and I live on the East Coast, but it is important. And anytime that I can do that and they think it will help, I'll try it. And whatever I can do. So that's why I'm here.
Is there anyone who you want to talk to who hasn't responded to you? Have you been trying? Do you want to talk to the mayor of Los Angeles? Is there anyone that you've tried to communicate with who has not been responsive to you?
The mayor reached out to me. She called me on a day where I had found out something that wasn't great. And I didn't yell at her, but I was not kind. I told her how disappointed I was and how slack it was. And she, in turn, called the head of homicide, and I think it was Detective Rabbit, and then Gonzalez, and I was called by all of them, and they did whatever it was that I thought needed to be done.
Can you share with us what you were so upset about?
They did not take a statement from the security guard that was there, and he stood and waited, and the police had talked to him, and you can see him in the video. And then when the detective showed up hours later, Brian said that the police went and told the detective, pointed to Brian, I guess explaining who he was and what had happened. He was just going to give a statement to the detectives. And the police came over and said, you can go. So I said, I don't care if it's a crackhead in a pink tutu. You need to take your statement. You can disqualify it later. I mean, you take everybody's statement.
You do not know the answer unless you ask the question.
That's my theory. And they did do what I asked. The mayor had no clue.
Yeah.
You know, and so she did get them to at least call and do that. And that was at least appeasing me. That was good. But it didn't give them anything else. But I just felt like that's just a smack upside the head when that has happened. And you know, the what if.
Yeah. When is the last time you spoke to your son?
It was probably, I tried to even look back on my phone. It was maybe a couple weeks before he was shot. I spoke to him on Mother's Day, of course, which would have been, May 11th. And so it was a few days even after that, maybe the next week. And he just called to check on me in the middle of the day because our time difference, I couldn't call him on the way to work. He was usually sleeping and that kind of thing. So it was hard to always catch each other. But we just chatted about how our day was going and, what you were doing, and always said we loved you at the end of the conversation. So I did at least get to tell him that. And I think he knew it. We always said it, and we were a very close family. And he talked to his brothers a lot. I don't know when the last time they spoke with him, Last time I saw him was in January for my surprise 60th birthday party. He flew in. So that was nice. That was one of my last hugs. I will miss that.
I am so sorry.
Thank you. I really wish they would just catch them. It'd be so much easier to have closure and to proceed with the other things. But I do want to change what's happening in this city, and then I want it to spill over to other cities like this. It's just ridiculous. Looser laws, less law is not helping anybody. Definitely didn't help my son.
No. And what I was going to ask you was, what would justice look like in this case for you?
Oh. I like Psalms 109, what David tells God he wants him to do to his enemies, which carries on to the third and fourth generation. And I can't say what I'd really like to do. That wouldn't be good. But
you're his mother. You're right.
Newsom has put a stay or something on your death penalty you have here.
We've had it for a very long time. Yeah.
Yes.
We have.
And I don't understand it. It's there for a reason. Mm-hmm. It's not for everything. I get it. So if you can't do that, life without parole, no chance of parole. Get them. And I think all three of them, if one of them is not going to come forward and they're going to just remain the cowards that they are, they all three need to go to jail, in my opinion. Every one of them. And then life without parole would make me at least feel some better.
How do you think this case is going to get cracked?
I think someone's going to have to come forward, or we're going to have some discovery, whether it's an investigative journalist, whether it's a detective, part of the community. Somebody knows something, and they just need to do the right thing. Johnny would have done the right thing.
Is there anything you want to say that we haven't said or touched on?
Just that we are going to start 2 foundations, one for victims and one for to pass a law that'll be called Johnny's Law that we're writing, so that we can have some things changed. And Justice for Johnny, you can follow that. And we'll have updates on that. And to please support it. We'll have blood drives and golf tournaments and things like that to push us forward through that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
This has been a special episode of True Crime News, the podcast. I want to thank Scarlett Wactor for trusting us to tell her deeply personal and painful story. Expect to see more exclusive and extended interviews like this as we launch our new television series, True Crime News, premiering on Monday, September 9th. You can find us across all social media platforms at My True Crime News. Until next time, I'm your host, Ana Garcia. This is True Crime News, the podcast. And as we always say, don't do crime.